All right.
Hey everybody. Happy Sunday. I knew I forgot to mute one thing. Sorry, gotta mute the iPad. Okay. all these things in front of me, and I knew I was gonna forget one thing. How's it going, everybody? Who do we have here? I see Julie Sejos. Am I saying your last name right? I'm probably not. Hi, Carly. Hi, Sleuthy by proxy, and Christy. Amba, J. John.
I didn't even notice the spelling.
Me either. Portland, Oregon. What? Hi, Noelle. That's awesome. I'm just going to share our link or tell people to get on in the group. How's everybody's Saturday?
Saturday? Isn't today Sunday?
Did you hear Dixie? She just went, "Er." Hi, Sue. Yay. I'm so glad you're here. Hi, Renee.
Ooh, 2:30.
2:30, yuck. On a Monday morning, I guess, for you, right? Hi, Sleuthy by proxy. Thanks for being here.
I think we're going to try and go earlier.
Yeah. Yep.
In the future.
J. John and Sleuthy by proxy. Can one of you guys mind, or somebody out there mind dropping the link to our YouTube channel in the group? I noticed earlier somebody asked for the link, and I've been busy all day. Just got home, rushed around, was set up outside to go live outside again because it's not too horrible outside, and my backyard fence neighbors decided to have a barbecue, and they're loud, and they have like 85 kids, so back inside again. And my husband will be home from softball soon, so I've turned myself around so he won't be making an appearance in front of the camera this time.
No half-naked streaks?
No, not this time.
It was the highlight.
Yeah, he didn't. We were at dinner last night, and I told him, and he was like, "I was on your YouTube?" I'm like, "Yes, briefly." Thanks, Renee. Thanks, everybody. Hi, Stacy O. No shirtless walk-bys, no. He's always shirtless at home, and he didn't even think about, he came home from softball, he went and showered, he came out, and there he was. So, we're going over the autopsy today. It's I feel like these last few weeks, other than last week's Q&A, have just been so heavy. So heavy. Just so everybody knows, usual disclaimer, we are not professionals in any way, shape, or form. These are just our observations and opinions. Please do not attack anybody involved in this case in any shape or form. And all people are innocent until proven guilty. Yes, at least he was wearing shorts. he always wears shorts. Whatever. I'm not going there. So, people are starting to come in. So, who listened to Boat Mama's interview? We'll go over that towards the end of this episode. If anybody has any questions about it. I think there was one question in the group.
When I was editing it, when I was going through and editing it, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot we talked about that. And it was good to listen to again.
Yeah. I played it in the car. the other day when I was driving. Oh, Dixie. That's enough of that. She's playing with her toy, barking at the toy. She's very sweet, Carly. She's very, very sweet. She was recording from her iPhone, or her cell phone, so that's why it was hard to hear her. Getting updates. My husband just hit a double. That's funny. Just watched your husband hit a double. I guess we could get... I need to know who that is. We can get started. Let me pull up my PDF. Thanks, Susan, for always putting these PDFs together for me to read from. Mm-hmm. And this week it's in order because I sent it in order.
Actually, 2 things were out of order, but I had enough time to read them. So I was like, oh, that doesn't go there.
You know what's so crazy, too, is like I purposely went through and like marked it, like in order. So it must just be like one sending over, it catches one and then goes.
Yeah.
Like one goes in front of the other.
One's smaller or something and it goes quicker.
Okay. So the first thing we have up here is the pathological examination that was performed on February 27th. So it was the day after the death. And it was done by Lisa Fuente. And her primary findings were a gunshot wound to the head, which we know, injury of the skull and brain, no projectile, trajectory of the bullet right to left, front to back, and without significant deviation, upward or downward. So that's all she found. I mean, obviously, we know that there wasn't going to be more than that was found because there wasn't anything else. Although I think that there should be one more thing that should have been found, and we can get into that a little bit later. It's just my opinion. I was going to stop really quick. My daughter's name is Carly with a K, but it's not I, it's 2 E's. So I do love it. And I just gave the world my daughter's name. That's awesome. So
yes, Christy.
It was downward, according to the photos.
According to my dowels.
According to your dowels. We're not going to show photos also, by the way. I'm not even going to apologize for that. It's just not happening. So do you want to scroll down to the external description really quick? Because the respiratory is right there, and then we'll have to come back up to that.
Oh, so it's not in order.
It's okay. We weren't sure we were going to put that in, but so his body condition was intact, normally developed, and adequately nourished. 71 inches, makes him taller than me. 196 pounds. His body heat was cool. Obviously, it was the next day. I would hope it was cool. Rigor partial. The liver mortis was red purple, present on the right side as well as anteriorly, and is fixed. We can come back to all these because I know everybody wants to. His hair is brown. His eyes were brown. His teeth were present. He had a mustache and a beard. The only thing that I wanted to pull out of this other external is that, I mean, it was him, and I mean, she remarks on that his chest, abdomen, and pubic hair are trimmed, but then leaves out a whole bunch out of this autopsy. Like, just lazy work.
Very lazy. They're supposed to note everything. Like, if they're missing an eyelash, have a hangnail, if a tattoo is faded, everything is supposed to be detailed.
I feel like I don't have enough light now. Hang on 1 second. Sorry, guys. Okay. This is the part that we talk about often, and it says the body is received clad in a blue hoodie sweatshirt, a white t-shirt, a pair of khaki pants with a belt, and a pair of brown boots. The hands are bagged. So it's never been noted if he was or wasn't wearing underwear and socks, but they're not in the list of items that they received. So again, is it lazy work? She didn't note it, or was he not wearing them? We don't know.
Well, and in the photos, it does look like he does not have any socks on. When you can see the photos with him still having boots on.
Yeah, it's just hard to know if like he was wearing like ankle socks. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, ankle socks with work boots though.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A man named Lisa, maybe. I mean, people from there would know more than me. The evidence of injury is 1 gunshot wound, and she or he will not repeat them. And then this part talks about the gunshot wound itself. This is going to be really hard, you guys. I'm not going to lie and say that it's not going to be hard to just read this out loud and not show pictures. So I'm just going to read this. On the right side of the head, 3 1/4 inches below the top of the head and 1 inch anterior to the superior attachment point of the pinna of the right ear is an entrance defect. This entrance defect measures 1/2 of an inch in diameter. The defect is surrounded by a marginal abrasion and marginal lacerations. Gray-black discoloration, consistent with soot, is present on the edges of the defect. Just anterior to the entrance defect is a circular 1/4 inch in diameter abrasion with laceration. Red-purple ecchymosis is present in the upper eyelids bilaterally, and abrasion is present on the bridge of the nose. After perforating the skin and subcutaneous soft tissues on the right side of the head, the bullet sequentially perforates the right temporal bone, so it is identified on the external plate of the skull surrounding the defect in the temporal bone, the right temporal lobe, the brainstem, the left temporal lobe, and the left temporal bone. Bilateral subdural hemorrhage is identified. Diffuse subarachnoid hemorrhage is present. Linear and comminuted fractures are present in all bones of the calvarium and base of the skull. On the left side of the head is an irregular stellate exit defect measuring 3/8 of an inch by 1 1/8 of an inch overall. The trajectory of the bullet is right to left, front to back, and without significant deviation upward or downward. Doesn't mean there wasn't any, it just wasn't significant. Then these are the tests that they proceeded to go into. I'm going to go back up now so we can go up and then come back down to respiratory.
Go back up.
Mm-hmm. Right there. So this is respiratory. It says the trachea is midline and no lesions are identified. Blood coats the mucosal surface of the trachea. The trachea is not obstructed. The lungs are normally developed. The right lung weighs 560 grams. The left lung weighs 490 grams. The major bronchi contain blood but are otherwise without lesions and are not obstructed. Sectioning of the lungs discloses a pink to red-purple parenchyma with patchy areas of hemorrhage. Okay, so I'm going to stop right here. we have said that there was blood in his lungs. We're not quite sure that there was there was blood in his lungs. It shows in one of the photos. It's not a big amount. We don't know if that was like he took one last breath and it went down sort of thing. We have reached out to a doctor and a medical examiner. We're still waiting for the medical examiner to reply back. And the doctor was on vacation, but briefly wrote and said, and we sent the report. It said some blood in airway, lungs are bruised with some areas of blood. That's all that means right there. So we don't know how it got there. We don't know if it was because he was sitting up and it drained down. We don't know if it was because, like, my theory was that he was choked from behind, and just doing a little bit of research, you can find that somebody that's choked from behind will have blood in their bronchi. We don't know, but we do have a medical examiner that hopefully will look at it and let us know if that means anything or maybe nothing. I know I'm going to butcher this word. The genitourinary. I swear this is other than the case file, I've never even seen that word before, but I'm not a doctor, so. It says the right kidney weighs 160 grams, the left kidney weighs 200 grams, the subcapsular surfaces of the kidneys are smooth, the cortices are of normal thickness and well demarcated corticomedullary junctions, the calces, the pelvis, and uteries are unremarkable. The urinary bladder is empty, the mucosa is tan and smooth, the prostate gland is unremarkable. When we were going through the reports for this tonight, I just pulled out the pieces that were relevant to the case. The autopsy report's obviously much longer than this. Just a lot of things that they have to report on. The reason why I put this piece in there is because it says that his bladder was empty. That, could be important in a murder case. The gastrointestinal system. This is another important piece, and that's because it gets into the digestion of his food and how much food he had in there. The tongue is unremarkable externally and on sectioning. The esophageal mucosa is tan and without lesions. The stomach contains approximately 10 milliliters of brown fluid and pieces of partially digested food. No tablets, capsules, or fragments thereof are identified in the stomach. The gastric mucosa has normal rugal folds. No ulcers or other lesions are identified. The small and large intestines are unremarkable externally. The appendix is present. The pancreas is unremarkable externally and upon sectioning. So he had 10 milliliters of brown fluid and pieces of partially digested food. The summary is what kills me the most. It says this individual was discovered without signs of life at his residence. He has a history of depression. At post-mortem examination, one gunshot wound of the head is identified with significant injury of the skull and brain. No projectile is recovered. Based on the case history and autopsy findings, it is my opinion that the cause of death is a gunshot wound of the head. The manner of death is suicide. Okay, I'm going to stop right here. I wanted to go into today with a little bit of research, so I pulled a few things. See where she said, she or he, whoever this medical.
It's a she.
Okay, that's he has a history of depression, and then she says, based on the case history and autopsy findings. Case history, 24 hours later. I pulled up a PubMed article from 2015 about how a medical examiner could go about concluding that somebody was suicidal and putting in their findings that they were depressed. And this article, I can link it in the group later. 25 studies were identified. There was a lack of standardization of variables assessed between studies, leading to incomplete data sets in some work. Just like we've been saying all along, no suicide is identical. There is no by suicide terms. However, a diagnosis of depression was found in 33%. That means they could go back into the person's medical history and find a diagnosis of depression. Christian had none. None. Zero. Then I found...
Correct, Julie. Hearsay.
Then I found an article about a suicide that happened in North Carolina. It was a teenager, and that's where you see that quote. It's from the family. His name was Lennon Lacey, and he died of suffocation from hanging. The family doesn't believe it. There were a lot of things that led them to not believe so, and I'll also link this in the group later. One was that his neck had dark abrasions encircling along with a buckle melt, but it was like somebody tied a noose, like he was hung intentionally. But you can see it says an autopsy cannot determine whether a person was depressed. You can't tell that from physical signs. So why was it put in the report? This is his brother, sorry. That's a red flag to me. It's not factual. And it goes back to, how does a medical examiner put in a report that somebody had a history of depression, or that they had a history of depression, without it being in their medical report? You can't look at a body laying on a table being prepared for autopsy and say he was depressed. You could test for antidepressants. You could test for antidepressants, or any sort of drug that would help with depression. You could look into their file and see if they had been treated for depression, if they had ever been prescribed anything for depression. But as a medical examiner, how does one look at somebody laying on a table and say this person has a history of depression? No, you were told that person had a history of depression. You can't look at somebody and say you're a depressed person, especially one that's not alive and talking.
And he has no signs of previous attempts of self-harm.
Okay. I'm going to go back now. This next one is the ambulance report. This touches on the first responder arriving, and it says the patient is a 25-year-old white male found at his residence. Patient laying into the bathtub with blood filling the tub. Patient is unresponsive. No signs of life are present. Patient appears to have gunshot wound to right temple, exiting through left, but exam is difficult due to hair and blood in way. Unresponsive, not breathing, no pulse, no potential salvageable signs, massive blood loss. Skin cool and dry. Extremities intact, no movement. This is a first responder, mind you. Once patient determined to have no signs of life and injuries incompatible with life, no further treatment was performed. Patient pronounced and scene secured, investigated by law enforcement. Once requested by coroner, patient removed from scene and placed in body bag, transported to morgue, left in morgue cooler. Now, if you scroll down this report, where did I see that? Sorry, there was a spot that said that okay. I'll have to come back to that. I don't want to stay on this. But you can see in this report, it says he was cool and dry. His skin was cool and dry. The next report is Gypsy Ward's report, just going over the ambulance report. And she even puts in there, Mr. Steele documented that the patient was unresponsive, not breathing, no potential salvageable signs, massive blood loss, and skin was cool and dry with no movement. Here we come to the coroner's report. Granted, the first responder was there before the coroner. On the second page of his report, it says the body temperature was warm. Tell me this was an accurate investigation. First responder, there first, cool and dry. Coroner report, he was warm.
Massive blood loss.
Massive blood loss.
Would also contribute to being cool and dry, not warm.
Right. So something else that the time of death on the coroner's report. Is it not on that one? Oh, it's right there. It's right there. The time of death on the death certificate is 3:45. The time of death on the report of death investigation from Cobbler is 4:45. Now, granted, we know that it's probably on the death report at 4:45 because that's when it's called in, but he put it on the death certificate as 3:45.
And I believe it was at 11:30.
Yeah. So that is all of the reporting that we are going to read from this week. And then we can just get straight into talking about it, because without showing the photos, without being able to read that.
Do you want me to post
oh, wait, there.
the
That's
invite?
what I was looking for. That's what I was looking for right there. Hang on. Let me go back to that. I knew I had seen that. So at the bottom of the Cobbler's report, he was transported through, so he was put in a body bag and he was tagged, and then he was transported to the Lauderdale County morgue, and the body was released to Magnolia Transport. We were always led to believe that he was just, we weren't led to believe anything because it was crap, but he was thrown in a body bag and thrown back in the van. And that's why he was the way that he was, right? And if we go back up to the medical examiner's report, partial rigor in the liver mortis is present and fixed. And in medical terms, when something is fixed, that means it's never going to change. So it didn't happen at the morgue like they want everybody to believe. It happened at the apartment. It was fixed. That's why Arden believes so. That's why so many people believe that he had rigor mortis and he was in rigor.
Well, and in the photos, he's clearly in the same position that he was at the scene when they opened the body bag, even face down.
With his hands the same way.
Yeah, and so that's another thing. They claim that the back of the leg is from the transport, but he's face down still. So it can't be from that.
They did notice hair color. It was in the very, very beginning, D-shade. They said brown, and his eyes were brown. The very beginning of the medical examiner's report. Unless you're talking about the coroner's report. The reporting's all a mess anyways. There's different times on different documents. There's different dates on different documents. Nothing is consistent. Nothing is concise. They're just a mess. I don't know how they even can call themselves a medical examiner, to be honest. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that I know, but
you're supposed to write everything.
Right. So, like, Susan talked to one, and they're supposed to, if somebody has a hangnail. I was, I think I said it last week, but I was looking closer at photos, like zooming in, and there's, like I said, he had, like, his sweatshirts were like exactly where my sleeves are, and he had red marks, like somebody had grabbed him right here, like right there. And that's not remarked on. He had scratches on his hands. That's not remarked on. And granted, those could be nothing. Like, the red marks can be from a first responder picking him up, right? The scratches could be from on the boat. But they have to be remarked on. I will say that going through his autopsy report, he was super healthy. Like, there wasn't anything that was, like, unremarkable. Like, usually when they're doing an autopsy on somebody, they'll find something. Like, he had some lesions on his lungs, or he was in early stages of diabetes, or, he had some polyps in his colon. They'll find something. Christian was super, super healthy. I'll be right back. I'm going to turn my light on.
Yeah, exactly. They have to even note if someone's missing eyelashes. I mean, everything. A faded tattoo.
Lisa, I personally don't think that his hands were tied. I think that was from either the bagging of his hands or the hair ties that he had. He did have hair ties. And they were in the photos of the evidence that was on his body with a key, and there was 2 hair ties. So they look like hair tie dents to me is what they look like, but it could have been other rubber bands from him being bagged, his hands being bagged. Does anybody want to come up and talk?
Yeah,
Chat.
Drop the link.
I know this is just a brief. I mean, the autopsy report goes further in depth, and the toxicology obviously came back clean. There was no drugs, no alcohol in the system.
The stomach contents, that proves whether he died at 11:30, which I believe, or 3:45. There's no way he ate any of the Chick-fil-A that
right.
The other side insists he ate.
He didn't even drink anything, like 10 milliliters of brown liquid.
Yeah. It could have been a little bit of coffee left over from or whatever he got to drink on the way home.
What the hair do? Okay, so I just saw Carly's question about the kneecap. Okay, it's hard. See, it's so hard without a photo, and we just won't. So bear with me while I try to explain it. So when I was zooming in on his body last week, like I was examining Christian, like through photos, right? It was very odd to me, like around his knees, his actual kneecap was like blanch white, like pressure had been on them. And so it was like a normal skin tone around, and it was like, I mean, I sent it to Susan, but it was like snow white. So it was just something that stood out to me. I was like, yikes, that doesn't look normal. And it could be because he was on his knees when they found him and all the blood drained from there. Also, his hands were had scratches on the tops, but when somebody's blood drains out of their body, they start to like shrivel, dry out, right? And his hands were really wrinkly. So for the way that he was found, for his hands to be as wrinkly as they were, that stood out to me too. Have you guys ever noticed I'm a hand talker? Sorry. And the marks on his arm bugged me really bad. And it really bothers me that the medical examiner remarks on his body hair being shaved, but didn't even nothing about the marks on his arms, the scratches on his hands, his kneecaps.
The mark on his back.
Which is there. It's in the photos. So.
Yes. And it's clearly a shape, a pattern.
Right. Nobody wants to come up and discuss? Where is everybody? Sorry, this was a short presentation week, but it's just hard when there's not much. I mean, there's not much to work with in that file, first of all. Second of all, the photos aren't going to be shown. And we, going back to that other person that passed away, unfortunately, his family believes that it wasn't a suicide. The brother's not wrong. You can't determine if someone's depressed from an autopsy. And I don't believe that it's their job to even determine that.
No, that was very careless to add that. But it was a narrative that they were trying to display.
And in this report, or in this article, it says that Lacey's death has been a mystery to his family and friends because he never had any history of mental illness or depression and was extremely focused on the football game scheduled for a few hours after he was found hanging. He was also in a relationship with an older white woman who lived across the street. The family asked for the autopsy, and it took him a long time to get it to him. And also, the medical examiner said that he was depressed over the recent. So it says the autopsy report emphasizes that point, stating prominently under its summary and interpretation section that it was reported that Lacey had been depressed over the recent death of his uncle. And Lacey's family said they were puzzled and angered by the reference to a reported comment that had no relevance to the physical and forensic analysis involved in the postmortem. And later down in the article, it says that he actually wasn't that upset by his uncle's death because his uncle had been suffering for quite some time, and he was actually relieved that his uncle was, not in pain and not suffering any longer. So how does a medical examiner determine that somebody was depressed over an uncle? How do you know that? You're the medical examiner. So they took what was told to them, same as in Christian's case, and put it in their report. Yes, we do, Julie. Come up here. His nose had an abrasion that not very big, like half of a dime size. Would you say, Susan?
Well, you and I disagree on what it is, but...
Well, okay, if we're talking about the part on his nose right here on the bridge, I think that's an abrasion. The pieces down here, I think that's petechiae.
Well, I think they're the same distance apart. In my opinion, that it's a pattern of something. Because they measure about the same. But, I mean, I don't know. I do think he was punched, in the face, probably. I do think that there was a scuffle. Just because there isn't any signs of one doesn't mean that there wasn't one.
Because the bathroom was too small for any sort of scuffle. Like you need a big space.
But big enough for Whitley to fit in a small, little tiny spot. Christy's coming on. Hey, Christy.
Hi, ladies. Okay. So you were talking about the ME reporting on... Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
I had to turn off my other one because I hear an echo. Sorry. Yikes. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I was watching one of my true crime shows, as I do. One of millions of them. And it was about this girl who had gone missing and they didn't find her for a really long time, and they found her in water. And then they found her car in the water. And they were trying to determine if it was suicide or homicide. And the ME read her journals. They brought all her journals to the ME, and he went out to the crime scene. I'd never seen an ME do this, or heard of that. Usually I think of them in their building, performing autopsies. But
that's what they do.
Right. Except they do autopsies. But this guy went out to the scene where she was found, and he read her journals. He interviewed the boyfriend, other friends, employer, the mother, and she wasn't found for like 6 months or something, a really long time. So there was not anything from the body that they could use. And drownings, or unless there's an obvious bullet hole through a bone, a lot gets washed away. So they can't really do a proper, they won't find, an obvious sign of death or cause of death. I thought that was just super interesting.
I would think that law enforcement would do that.
No, I know. So would I. But it was the
I'm going to Google right now, how many... earlier when we were talking in chat and you said something about a handbook. What did you say? Something about an autopsy guidebook?
Yeah, she was looking for something like it has a normal autopsy.
Oh, I wanted, because I was looking at Christian's autopsy and I wanted to know, is it normal that the sectioning of the lung discloses a pink to red purple pericardium, pencurm, I don't know what it is, with patchy areas of hemorrhage? I know hemorrhage, though, means bleeding, and I don't think that that's normal in the lungs. So it says that there's patchy areas of hemorrhage. I don't think that's normal. I think they noted it, but she just glazed over it, along with blood coats the mucosal surfaces of the trachea. I think that's important. I don't think there should be any blood in there. He was face down. Even if he had they want to say he shot himself leaning over the tub. If that was the case, there would be no blood in his trachea. None. There would be no blood on the back of his head.
Right,
while he's in the tub, and there is.
My only concern with the lung thing is, I mean, I get what you're saying. I get it. But my only concern is I guess it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where I'm going with this is it because he took a last breath and inhaled blood? Which is possible.
How would he do that if he's, because as soon as he's shot and if he's he goes straight down immediately.
But like what I'm saying, like did he, shoot and then blood?
It wouldn't be instant. The blood wouldn't be there, like instant.
Before his head would drop, before the blood would get there.
But what my point is, it wasn't like a pool of blood. Like there's not just this massive amount of blood sitting in his lung. So it's not. Right. We always took it like he was sitting up and all the blood just went down into his lungs. And so I think a medical examiner needs to look at the photo, to be honest, because I don't know. It's hard to say, like.
Well, it says sectioning of the lungs. So the picture that I sent you was just a visual. That wasn't even the sectioning. So the sectioning of the lungs means they cut it open and they have it on file, sectionings of the lungs, and they can see that the patchy, the red, pink and red, purple, whatever that's called, and patchy areas of the hemorrhage. And I Googled just how to pronounce that right before. I forgot.
I don't even try to pretend to know.
I think that a medical examiner definitely needs to look at that and determine, because should he have, let's say he took a deep breath before he pulled the trigger, assuming that it fits the narrative of suicide, or could even be though murder. But I mean, if somebody were to breathe in my opinion, and if blood traveled that fast, which again, I'm going to say it's not, but then I would also think that there'd be more splattering because of the air coming out, like after it exhales.
Yeah.
But he has blood in his nose, his mouth, and his ears.
And the back of his head.
But I mean, I'm just saying, with the position of his body, where the bullet hole is, if his body was in the position in which it was found, I do not feel that the blood would look the way that it did necessarily. And that's where I need somebody with more knowledge than myself, obviously, to determine would it look like this, and would the scene look like this.
I do think that he aspirated. I didn't mean swallowed if I said swallowed. I do think that he aspirated blood. I think that he breathed some blood in, and I think that I'm just going to go back to my original theory that Christian was held from behind in a chokehold, and then when he was shot, of course his body dropped, and that last bit made him that blood down. It's in his bronchi, so right below his trachea.
Yeah, if he was in a chokehold, there would be one last forced breath, I would think.
And I'm going back to that other case that I had been following for years, and I never knew. I always was under the assumption that if somebody's choked out or strangled, I don't think Christian was necessarily strangled because he was shot, but if somebody's choked out or strangled, it doesn't always leave bruising. It doesn't always bruise. I guess that's a very hard part of your body to actually bruise. And so they'll find a lot of times in strangulation deaths that there's no bruising, and that's how they miss it. and then they will find that people aspirate blood or whatnot. And so I don't know. I'm just going to go back to my whole thing that I think he was in a chokehold.
Going on that
Just
theory,
my opinion.
I mean, he had a hoodie on, and the hoodie was up, was it not? So
We
that
don't know.
might not show true. There was something I remember reading that I thought it said it was up, but that also might not then. It'd be more pressure on the neck, but like the hoodie, if it was in between,
Yeah.
whatever was compressing the neck area, it would then maybe not show, like, let's just say like ligature marks or something on the neck.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to talk more about his hands too, because obviously he was a nail biter. So I wouldn't expect there to be like, can't find anything under the nails. But Christy had mentioned in the chat that they looked dirty. And I agree, definitely it looks like dirty, but I was also looking, it looks like there's blood to me as well, but like as if the hands had then been cleaned, but in the cracks of your nail beds.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like all around the outside of
the nail.
Yeah.
Like of the nails. And so, I mean, obviously it's hard to sometimes tell the photos, but why is it not noted more in his autopsy report? I mean, they bagged his hands for the love of God. You would think that that's also not only for GSR, but also for any evidence. Why, at least if it was, I didn't see it anywhere to explain what they were seeing. Is this dirt? Is it blood? Is it what?
Again, I'm zooming in on this photo that you're talking about, the fingernails.
Yeah.
And as I zoom in, there's another abrasion on the palm of his hand.
Oh, and
that's
also
not
on
remarked.
some of his fingers. I want to say
and
was
liver mortis.
And something, yes, but I was also looking at that in the discoloration, but my next questions were like, again, looking at pictures, is this bruising? Is this like defensive marks? Does it go back to your theory where his hands tied behind his back? Does that explain why GSR is only on certain portions of his hands or palms in certain areas? Because his hands or palm, depending on how the hands were covered up from the other hand behind his back. So only certain, GSR only hits on certain areas. I mean, it's endless.
His left hand looks pretty beat up compared to his right hand. Like, looks like there's a bruise on some of his fingers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if you put the hand behind, you twist it back and you like twist their hand. I don't know. It just the differences in their hands is very striking to me. I don't know.
I think that you're talking about the one.
The one looks very pruny and one does not. His left hand looks very pruny to me, and his right hand does not.
And it's the left hand is full of lividity, full of it. And just as somebody, I mean, I'm not trying to be foul, but I've seen somebody die and their nails don't look like that.
Right.
His nails are still pink. That's very weird to me.
He has a significant bruise on his pinky, on the tip of his pinky.
And that's hard to tell if it's a bruise or if it's actual lividity.
Well, wouldn't all the fingers have it?
Well, maybe because the way it's being held, but it should have been remarked on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go back up to some of these questions. Where'd Julie go? Did we lose her?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nope. No mention on if he had lost his bowels or his bladder. Nope. Christian's clothes were not taken into custody. Nope. His body was not dusted for prints.
So they didn't check his fingernails or to see what any of that substance was, and they didn't test any of his clothes for anything else either. Nothing. No. Or his shoes or pants or anything to make sure that was all his blood.
It was marked as a suicide. It was marked that he was depressed, and it was done.
Right, and Dylan made sure of that, and the 911 call that started that narrative. It got them. And I know Chasing Justice 411, she said she would bag and tag everything, but here or not here, because I don't live there, in Meridian, they didn't have a team. That all the different police officers, one was taking pictures, one was doing the GSR. They all had assigned different roles. There was no forensic team that came in, which they should invest in if you're listening, Meridian.
Well, they used cell phones for their photos.
Oh my goodness.
Unfortunately, they didn't get body cams until 2015.
So, Sumslut asked if Bruises can form after a person is deceased. And so, of course, I went to good old PubMed. And yes, it can happen. There's 2 cases in this abstract that show a 37-year-old man was found prone on a river shore and taken out of the water by a rescuer by grasping at the right upper arm. Approximately 1 hour and 30 minutes after death, a bruise formed. 2 thumb-sized discolorations resembling antemortem bruising were observed on the lateral and frontal surfaces of the right upper arm. In case 2, a 40-year-old woman was found prone immersed in a moat. A moat? Did you look at a castle? I want a moat. And taken out of the water in the above-mentioned manner approximately 1 hour and 45 minutes after death. At inspection, 2 thumb-sized discolorations appearing to be antemortem bruising were observed on the inner surface of the right upper arm. The cause of death in both instances was drowning. So yes, you can bruise after death.
And also, some of that could have been from his job. He had a physical job, so
right. But it still should be remarked on.
Right, but I believe that they wear gloves. I could be wrong on that.
I can't imagine not. They're pulling big ropes that are like. Oh, thanks, Kira. I just called you some slut. I was like, what do I call her?
The only other thing I was wanting to touch base on is that, like, many people don't understand, I think, the stages of death, or, you know, what happens after death, meaning the lividity, meaning my mind is blanking out right now on what I want to say. I'm so tired. But also, like, shoot. Of course I get on here. Rigor mortis, but like the different stages of that, how many hours it takes. Granted, I feel conditions in which you're in. You were just talking about somebody that's in the water. Well, obviously, you know, their conditions going to be different than somebody on a hot August night sitting out by a lake, you know, like not in water. Like your conditions of your environment definitely take play. But many people don't know that, like, your body will go through stages into rigor mortis. Like, there will be a point, though, too, where, like, rigor mortis releases.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking at, like, standard rule of thumb, like, 2 to 8 hours, his body is going to be in rigor. Like, roughly around 12 hours is when, like, full rigor will set in. And if his body was I'm going to say bagged in a, still in the same position. What does that tell you? That,
Yeah,
he had been there for a while.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so that's just where I'm like, but again,
It wasn't an
fully
hour. Same with the
noted?
blood.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Even when we discussed that before, I mean, I'm telling you that blood was there 4 to 5 hours, which would then also explain the condition of his body. And granted, Rigor is different. Like somebody though that's muscular, somebody like Christian, um, that's what like triggers the rigor mortis. Like with it's your muscles, you know. So, I mean, I'm going to assume that saying like that 2 to 8 hour window, he's going to enter into rigor like faster than a small child that doesn't have body like muscular mass.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
it's mind blowing to me. I can't, you guys.
I
It's like
know.
I get so mad and frustrated and like hearing other people talk about, you know, that he, you know, like everything just happened and they called it was like within the hour, you know. No, it was not. Like,
Yeah.
stop lying.
Impossible.
Stop lying. Stop
Can't have
going to
that
the
big of
bank
a.
and trying to take out his money.
There's
It's just like the
no.
crazy gaslighting that goes on
You
by
have
the
to
other
believe
side.
me. Yeah, you must believe me because
You
I'm
can't,
right.
don't believe your eyes.
Dylan told me. I'm
Just ask
sure.
the pretend Christian that we have on the phone, right? I mean, that's what I was wondering if he was trying to get his friend, cousin, whomever that was that worked at the bank on the phone to like give passcode or, you know, personal information to be like, yeah, this is Christian. Yeah, my birthday's this, my address is this. Like, what was that what he was trying to do? I mean, did anybody ever interview that bank teller?
I don't
If
see any.
they did, there was no documentation of it.
Exactly.
And I believe
So,
that they did not.
and my next thing is okay, then would she speak to anybody? Would she come on alive or give her side of what she tells her?
It would be nice. I don't even know if we even know what her name was.
Well, and how long after the investigation did they go to get that information? I don't even think they spoke to her. I think they just went to the bank and asked for um the video or the still images. Apparently there is
I
a video. They said they took a still image from the video.
And
I
didn't the
believe,
Andreacchios go to get it?
yeah, the Andreacchios got that image.
Are you kidding? The police
No,
didn't?
no.
No, the
Yeah, I'm pretty
Andreacchios
sure that
got
the
it.
Andreacchios went and got it.
They did.
Oh, oh my goodness. This is such.
No one's interviewed the teller. There's no documentation anywhere of the teller being interviewed. Or the person that was on the phone with Dylan while he was inside the bank.
Yeah, no one ever interviewed BK.
No one ever interviewed people that have known Christian for years. They just took the words of two people that had known Christian for less than a year and were at the scene. And one admits that she's a liar.
Well, and her statement directly contradicts Dylan's statement.
Yep. And her statement was setting a scene going all the way back to the 22nd and having, what, 2 sentences regarding that day?
Makes
2
no
or 3
sense.
sentences.
Why didn't they ask her for more?
Good question.
It's just very odd to me that Dylan's statement is, you know, a buck short of War and Peace, and And as investigators reading that statement or listening to it being told to him, and his first thought wasn't, I need to go to that bank.
I just thought of something. So we said that they took her word for it, right? And they didn't investigate hardly anything more. It was half-assed at best. But when Arrington goes back and interviews them separately, they all had problems with the scene. They all had problems with what was happening. They all had a gut feeling, but nobody spoke up.
Well, even in their initial reports, they noted that they didn't quite buy it.
It just blows my mind. You become a police officer, but then you don't stand up for what you think is wrong or what needs to be said. And I know that they're not perfect and they make mistakes, and we all make mistakes. We're human, but more needs to be done to make this right. Makes me mad.
I don't think Christian was cremated.
Yeah, he has a site at
he has a
cemetery.
Yeah. I mean, of course, they could re-examine him, but that takes a lot of work, and I don't think they would do the work to do that.
They can't unring the bell.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I guess that would have to be a private one anyways. Like, the state's not going to pay for it. The county's not going to pay for that to happen.
Yeah, I bet the family could do that, right? They could have him.
They do it all the time.
Exhumed and checked.
Why would they need to?
Why were they
test for?
Yeah, I don't know.
Somebody brought it up. Let's see what they're asking.
That's one reason I will never be cremated. There might be some evidence if somebody asks me.
I'm not sure why. Anybody want to talk about the interview with Mama? Did you have any questions about that? Did anybody hear the one question that I asked that we're talking about in this discussion? I feel like I'm your teacher. Now, class, what did you learn from last week's lesson?
I'm trying to think of what question you were talking about.
It pertains to the what? What did you say, Julie?
Trying to remember exactly which question you're referring to.
Oh. It goes back to
you didn't tell us there was a pop quiz.
Pop quiz. It goes back to the autopsy.
Are you talking about the stomach contents?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah.
Specifically asked if he had breakfast that morning.
Bacon and a biscuit.
Probably going to go out on a limb here and say that bacon's probably not too easy to break down. Biscuit, maybe not. I don't know,
Yeah, and he only had little bits and particles that were not able to distinguish what they were. So I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
I did ask her about the hoodie. That was a good interview. I'm bitter about the podcast, but at least we got to play it this way.
Yeah.
She really gave us a true insight onto who Christian was too. I mean, she, like we said in the interview, when you spend 30 days at a time on a boat, small quarters, same people, you know each other, and she knew him. And she knew the other people too. Like, she knew who Bongo was, and she knew who Crackhead Bobby is. Oh, that's a loaded question.
Yeah,
loaded
that is.
questions. So Kira says, can you comment on why you believe all of this happened, why they didn't investigate, why no one wants to stand up for Christian and do their jobs? Do we all want to weigh in? I'll weigh in first. So I believe it happened because Whitley was done and she ran her mouth, and I think things went too far. That's my opinion. My opinion, don't sue me. Why they didn't investigate is because somebody asked them not to. And why no one wants to stand up for Christian. I will go ahead and just quote straight from body cam meeting with several people where Gypsy Ward says you can't unring a bell that's already been rung. That's why nobody wants to do their job. I mean, and how do they really? You pull one piece of thread that exposes any sort of, not even necessarily corruption, just
negligence.
You're going to have a landslide coming down. Like, why would they can't? They can't.
And they don't want to do it for, undo, because if they unring, I didn't say the right word, unring the bell, but have you ever seen those cases where they have to go and retry all the cases? They have all those convictions, all of that. It's a huge mess. And they're like, Christian's not worth it. That's what they're saying. Justice isn't worth it, is what they're saying.
Yep.
And
egg on their face.
Oh, egg on their face.
They're not thinking about Christian or justice or anything like that. It's all self-preservation. And I agree with 100% what Misty said on all the answers to those questions.
I was watching Dateline recently, and it was a case in Amarillo, Texas, and it was lovers, a love triangle, and this girl sat in jail for a year, and she wrote Dateline. And have you seen this one?
Oh, yes. I saw that one.
Yes. And she was innocent. She was writing to anyone, and Dateline was writing her back. And the DA, he came to her, and because he was building a case to prosecute her, and he said, "You didn't do it. I have to make things right." And he could have totally gone ahead with the case, but her cell phone pings. He said, your son, or there was a phone that was always with you, where you were always together, and it never left. It never left that location, and you didn't do it. And she finally got to go free. Now, how hard is that to just say, hey,
we screwed up.
We screwed up. We want to make it right. I don't think it's ever too late to do the right thing.
No, they could be heroes right now. The AG's office could be heroes jumping in and fixing this.
Well, because their conviction, they make deals all the time. They don't even care about, they just don't want to go to trial. I looked it up one time. I was looking up how many, if you look in their paper, but I don't have a subscription. So I have to be tricky on how I open up a incognito browser. You can only look so many times. Anyways, the Star Meridian, it will say this person was convicted for burglary 15 years, but they get 15 years credit.
Suspended.
Yeah. Suspended. Thank you. That's the word. Suspended. And then they are on 10 years of probation or something like that. So they agree to a plea deal. They don't serve the jail time, but then they're on probation forever. It's just super interesting and way backwards from how things are done. And they're not really in the paper like that. So to find that information is not public here.
There was a person who got convicted on attempted murder. And I believe it was like 20 years or 30 years. I can't remember which one it was. But it was reduced to 800 days time served.
Yeah, time served.
I mean, they were absolutely insanely ridiculous. If, like we've said before, if you want to kill somebody, go to Meridian.
Well, go to Mississippi. There was this other police officer lady who shot her husband in the back of the head, and she was in charge of like raising money for the policemen or something like that. And it was real quiet. I had to really dig in the newspapers to find it. She didn't serve any time. She got 5 years. And then it was, but not even served. It was probation, suspended.
It's their favorite thing to do out there is suspend a sentence. So it's like, it looks like they have all these convictions, right? But nobody's actually doing any time on these convictions, right? Because all of their sentencing, all of their punishment is suspended.
But they put them on super long probation periods, and then they can get them back in jail, yank them back anytime. So it's not really any. It's like they're messing with them. You know, there's no real.
I just don't understand it too, because like, I guess if you look good on paper that you have all these convictions, but like, why hasn't anybody come in and said, why aren't these people in prison? Like, are there prisons? I mean, it can't be just Meridian, but like the prisons, are they not like, why don't we have anybody from Meridian County here?
I think this is all over Mississippi. But
yeah, I think so too.
I've read way too many weird stories about corruption, money laundering. That seems like to be one of the number one crime things, where someone is an account, like a secretary or the treasurer of something in a county, and they've been stealing like $300,000 and constantly. I'm like, holy cow, do you think they can figure this out? But they have to be bonded.
Don't kill anybody anywhere.
Yeah, don't kill anybody anywhere.
And obviously don't take your cell phone.
Duh.
But then it might be that might be too obvious. So at least put it on the Roomba so it looks like it went around the house.
I did look up because we were talking about the guidebook thing right earlier, and then so I looked up, and you know, there are some places, why am I yelling? There are some states that the medical examiner's job is to investigate. Investigate. And then we have some places where the medical examiner is also like a taxidermist. Not mentioning any names, Mississippi. And like, it's just so all over the board, all across the country. Like, aren't our medical
need a high
examiners
school diploma?
Right. Anybody? Sorry, go ahead, Christy.
Sorry. I was trying to find comparable autopsy reports to see like what would be a normal finding, what would be within normal range for like for lungs, respiratory, all the other things. And my Google search brought me to LA County, and it lists all the deaths, and you can click on them. It just lists them in chronological order, and it says where they were found. And you can buy the autopsy result. You just buy the documents. You can buy the autopsy results. So I started clicking on some, but I could not. They were still pending. So I went back to like April. They seem to be backlogged. But you could click right on it, and they either died of natural causes, suicide, car accident, but they're all listed on there, and it will say who investigated it. It's like super transparent. And then you can buy the documents. It should be. Right. It was super interesting. I didn't buy any documents.
I don't know why my kids don't bother me all day long, but when I'm on here, everybody's got a question or something that they want to ask me. So on a side note, I know that you guys were saying that I believe you were talking to an ME, trying to get them to maybe look at pictures and reports, and I don't know how that's going. All I know is like Dr. Jan Garibaldi, she's in Florida. Don't know if you've heard of her. She is freaking amazing. And I was just curious if she'd be willing to like look at anything. Also, not sure what it's going to cost. Maybe your ME has already said like they just look at it as I don't know, a friend in general. But if we need to do like GoFundMe things to help support the costs,
in case we
I
have
don't
to pay
know
for an
what you guys
expert.
all think, but I mean, yeah. I mean, I think don't keep anything off the table. I mean, obviously, see what the family thinks and says too. I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes. I mean, I just feel like keep all options open to be able to get answers, you know?
Definitely.
I also think that there's another person that I've heard now mentioned more that wasn't always mentioned in the past that I've started doing a little digging in, and I think it's somebody that we should look at more.
Tell us who, or do you not feel comfortable?
I don't know how much you guys looked into Zach Tab.
Oh.
But I think we should.
Julie's wanting to get sued this week.
Misty left. She's out.
Yeah, she's out. We just see her chair.
She was like, Julie's talking about whatever, I'm out. No.
Sorry. The dog wanted in and I forgot to hide the camera, but you want to get sued this week? Is it do you want me to give up Jane number 12?
Jane
You can have it.
What was that?
I said, do you want me to give up Jane Doe number 12 and you can have it?
Oh.
Yeah, no, I mean.
I figured I was probably already on there because I already pissed people off on the other side.
You mean you did not. You did not. I'll just leave it at that. Send us that person's name in Florida so we can reach out to her. Unless you want to reach out to her, we don't. I mean, we're not gatekeeping a medical examiner.
No. I'll send that to you. She actually has, like, you can even find her on YouTube and see like some of her stuff. She has a show as well. But
Wait,
I mean,
Dr. G.
Yeah,
She lives in Washington now.
Does she?
Road trip.
She lives up north of Seattle.
Up with the times.
She retired.
Well, hey, that's not far from my brother-in-law. I mean, I could make things happen. I could try at least.
She does consult.
Oh, is it? Yeah, that's what I thought, but that's where I was. I mean, I've seen a lot of her work. Also, like, I'm just saying the YouTube, okay? But I mean, she really digs and finds answers, and there's a lot of Emmys that. I mean, a person comes in and, oh, they said it was suicide. Oh, yep, okay, let's just, like, go through the motions, like I feel like they did with Christian. There's a lot of things that weren't noted in there that should have been, period. And they didn't do their job. So.
Not at all. Whitley's phone records have been obtained. We don't have, well, we have portion of who she called and texted and her data usage. But as far as any sort of like phone dump, like what we have with Christian, no, we don't have that for Whitley. Nobody has that for Whitley. Frankie sent Susan, Whitley's, Dylan's, Matt's.
Yeah, Matt's,
and Christian's,
Whitley and Dylan's
records, but it's just as if they went to AT&T and got the call log, call report, text report, data report. There's no meat and bones to it other than
GPS.
cell phone tower pings. Yeah. Heather, if you remind me, I will pull that for when we go over the corruption in Mississippi, because that's good information to have. How many? I'm sure it's obtainable, right? I mean, it's public record. So if it takes me calling the courthouse, I will. I've called there before to find out if I was really a Jane Doe. Whose comment? Oh. Let's see, there was another question. I asked on Facebook hoping you would answer here, but Boat Mama brought up Dylan and Whitley wanted money from Christian for a drug deal. What are the thoughts on that? Is it possible that's why he was trying to get Christian's money? Definitely possible. I personally think Dylan at the bank was an alibi.
Yeah, I mean, he did try because he was in there and he had somebody on the phone, so that could have possibly been trying to pose as Christian. But he didn't say, "Hey, dude, I'm here," until after he was there and out and done with the teller. So that was definitely like an afterthought.
Right. Come here. He's not that smart, Kimberly. We're smarter. He thinks he was doing something that day, but he certainly wasn't telling the truth. That's what he wasn't doing.
No, he was not. Lots of little fibbers.
If going back to Boat Mama and the money, it was like what they wanted. They said they wanted $2,700 for some drug deal or something. I think it could have all be part of it. I mean, they were partying and hanging out, and it's well-known fact that the people that Whitley was with several nights before Christian's death used drugs. And drug addicts do drug addict things. So I think it's possible. I mean, there's a reason Christian was searching the Meridian Star's arrest record or arrest reports. There was a reason Christian was searching Dylan's name several times on Google and Facebook or not Facebook, on Twitter. There's a reason. We just need to know that reason. It was odd behavior. It wasn't something that he did regularly. It wasn't something that he did at all, actually. And so if that's part of it, if it's somebody was arrested for drugs, if somebody was arrested for something, there's a big piece of this picture that we're missing. And unfortunately, if they don't start talking, we may never see that piece of the picture because it's their secret to keep, I guess. I don't know. There's a reason. I mean, I'll never not think that Christian's behavior leading up to his death wasn't odd on his cell phone.
Yeah, he was definitely knew about something and was digging for something.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Anybody else want to come up and talk about anything? I think next week we're doing the 911 call, which I'm ecstatic about because this has all been so blah, and that will not lighten things up because, of course, this case is not light at all, but it'll break up I was dreading even presenting everything today. I mean, it wasn't even a lot because it's just for somebody that already has PTSD, it was a lot. I was like, ooh, what do I put in here?
It's tough stuff to talk about.
Sure. So I don't have my spreadsheet right in front of me, but he was digging for, actually I could probably get it pretty easy if I can remember where I put it. we noticed that starting the 21st, he went out on the boat on the 22nd. So starting the 21st, he was searching the Meridian Star rest reports several different days, not consecutive days. It wasn't like he was putting in like February 1st, February 2nd, February 3rd. He was like all over the place searching. He was searching like February 7th, February 19th, February 6th, like just all over the place searching. And it was very clear by the searches that he didn't, or probably didn't, land on what he was looking for. He was Google searching Dylan Swearingen, like he was like typing it into Google. And he was searching possibly like switching banks maybe. He searched he was on Twitter. He was on Twitter and he searched Zach Tab, Jet Miller, Matt Miller, several other people, but obviously those are the ones in Dylan. He created a Twitter account. He had no social media prior. Like his family didn't even know he had a Twitter until just a couple months ago.
He created it just to troll.
Just to leave one tweet to Matt telling him to get a job. It wasn't, they want to say that he came home to kill Whitley, Matt, and then kill himself. Well, the tweet that he tweeted at Matt wasn't anything harmful, threatening. It was get a job. He searched how to unhook his phone from Twitter because he didn't know how to deactivate the account, which I thought was funny. He was going into AT&T, the call, like, what am I looking for? Who
texting.
Whitley was texting and calling, and he was pulling up like their call and text reports, and he was looking for those things. And then he would go back to Whitley and say, whose number's blah, 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 blah. Whose number's blah, 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 blah. And then he would text that person, hey, who is this? Hey, who is this? Oh, yeah, definitely Noel. He was definitely looking to see who Whitley was with. And the bizarre part is we've always been led to believe that gun night happened the night before, right? Like it happened February 25th. No. Christian was searching these people all the way on the 23rd, 22nd, 24th. So she was with them prior. There was something else that he was searching. Wish I had my spreadsheet at my fingertips. We went over this a few weeks ago, so it's not too fresh in my mind. He would log into AT&T a lot, and he was searching, and he would message her and say, where are you? Who are you with? Whose number is this? And he'd reach out to those people and ask. I know there was more. Do you remember what else? The banks he was looking at, but we don't know. Like, Boat Mama told us in our interview that he searched Regions Bank, and that could have just been because he wanted to switch to a bank that had more options for him to cash his check, deposit a check. Oh, I lost Susan. That's not good.
Uh-oh.
Exactly, Sleuthy by proxy. Like, it was very weird for him to be searching Dylan.
Okay, I made a document. I just found it. And Christian searched for Dylan 281 total searches. I counted them all up.
I knew it was a lot. I didn't count them. I kind of did. They're in my spreadsheet.
Because if you look at, like, on one of it says Twitter, and then it says Dylan Swearingen, put an S, followings. Anyways, it says visits on the right. It says 164 times.
Well,
Let's see how many times he did that.
I don't know if you noticed, but you have to, on the left-hand side of the report, you have to make sure that it's not a web history. It's an actual search. I don't know if you saw that. Because if it's a web history, then it's just a cookie. I mean, it'll say cookie. Do you know what I mean?
I wish you could see my face. That is it. I don't see cookie, but I do see web history.
Yeah, I had to pull out the ones that were actual, like him entering keystrokes.
Well, it says, so ones I can tell are cookies where it has a huge address, correct? Like it's.
Let me go in really quick. Which are you in, HTC or iPhone?
Well, he was searching on this one until the 25th, so it has to be the iPhone, right?
Susan's internet went out. Hopefully she'll be back.
Oh, okay. So some of these might be cookies, but there's like a Google search.
Okay, so you see where it says, are you in the go in the HTC.
Okay.
And then go to line page 245 and line item 232.
Okay, hold on. You want me to go to which page?
245. It might be different on yours by a little bit because I'm on my phone.
Hold on. 250. Okay.
So you see how it says web history?
Yeah. That's not what I was looking at.
Yeah, those are the ones that he actually did physical work to get there. Like
web history?
Yeah.
So my document does say web history. Boom.
Okay. And then see how it says next to it, Dylan Swearingen, Google search. Yay, you're back.
Yay.
I wonder if I can share this document or it's
you see right above that? How do I disconnect my phone from Twitter?
Yeah.
That one cracked me up when I saw it. I was like, oh, he was brief. He wanted out fast.
Dude, we've all been there.
Yeah.
So, let's see.
Heather, do you know if Ray and them ever signed into Christian's iTunes account and tried to restore from last backup and see if Snapchat or other apps were restored from that backup? Isn't Christian's phone locked?
Is his phone locked?
Isn't his iPhone the one that's locked and they can't get into? I could be wrong on that. I'll have to double check on that. I don't want to misspeak. Tired of correcting myself. I know, Amber. It was funny though. And his Twitter handle was I was like, wait, what? Because everybody always assumed when they were going through the call reports before that it was Burns Mayfield. That it was Christian. Right, Julie, you don't just go look at somebody just to look at them. I mean, what are you looking for your friend on Google for? I don't think I've ever Googled a friend. Unless they've asked me to or something, but
I Google myself.
I mean, I think that's normal.
Are you stalking yourself, Christy?
No, I want to see what people find. And then if I find something, then I figure out how to get rid of it. Leave me alone.
There's a Misty Evans that's an author, like a book writer. Obviously, what's an author? And people are always like, do you write books? Mm-hmm. Yep, that's me. Go harass her. Anyways, does anybody else have any other questions? Maybe we'll make it under 2 hours this time. And next week, I'll definitely this week put the poll up in the group asking what time on Sundays work best. Because obviously it didn't change our views from our viewers from Sunday to Thursday, but that's also my fault. I got sick this week and didn't put the poll up, and then I had to help with some stuff tonight, so I couldn't get on till 6:30.
Yeah, hopefully we'll go a little bit earlier.
I know we interrupted Big Brother for you, right? I'm having right now.
Well, actually, I have it paused because I had to pause it the last 10 minutes so I can go walk the dog really fast.
Oh. Uh-oh, we lost her again.
I have a question. Are we ever going to go over the MBI report and how dumb it is?
Oh yeah, that's in the presentation week.
Presentation
which
week.
Is the week. That's the week after next.
Because there is so much that's wrong.
I think does anybody else have any questions? I'm surprised that people don't have more. She said FML, my internet again. I'm surprised people don't have more questions about Boat Mama's interview. Maybe we could just do a whole, I don't know, maybe we can get her to come on. I don't think she's working on the boat anymore. Or maybe she went out 2 weeks ago, so she must have 2 more weeks.
Or maybe we should have questions we can ask her and we can take them to her. Or put up questions for her. I don't know.
I'll ask her if she's comfortable with that. Well, they definitely got into his phone. They did a whole data dump out of it. It shows the apps that he has on both of his phones in the dumps. Snapchat is not on there, but that doesn't mean he didn't have it at one point or another. I agree, Noel. So much wrong. No, Carly, we don't, but we do know that she did have a bank account because she said so in text messages. She had some sort of an account. I agree that Cheryl is amazing. She's so kind. So yeah, next week is the 911 call, and Stacy, I have an update. This is from Ray in the Justice for Christian group. We lost Christy too. I am a one-man show now, big. Oh, Cheryl just commented on a post. Oh, she can't. She's watching. Okay, so she answered a question about the PPE. So yes, they have to wear proper protection equipment, hard hat, gloves, goggles, and the fireproof coveralls when tanking barges. Yay! Thanks, Cheryl. I'm so glad you're watching. Come on. She said she couldn't comment, so. The other Susan's back. Susan, you didn't hear what I said? Cheryl commented on my post in the group, and she said she can't comment on the lives, but she's obviously watching. And they do have to wear hard hat, gloves. She said goggles and fireproof coveralls when tanking barges. So yes, his hand was in gloves.
Okay.
Hands. This is from JFC. And because people kept asking if there was any updates in our group and over there, so I think Ray just wanted to address it today. I didn't see it until I was just coming home. So let me see what she said. She said, I have had multiple people asking for an update about Christian's case. At the current time, We are waiting the decision of the Mississippi Supreme Court as it relates to the writ the Attorney General's office filed asking for the Supreme Court to determine if Judge Wright has the authority to appoint the AGO as a special prosecutor. There does not appear to be a time frame that can be predicted for the decision to be handed down by the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court determines, hold on, it's loading. Judge Wright's ruling is not correct, then the matter of a special prosecutor will return to Wright's court for a different agency or individual to be appointed. The manner in which A.G. Fitch has handled Christian's case since taking office and attempting to distance herself from becoming involved has been disappointing. So, this is pretty long, so I'll screenshot it and post it in our group. I don't want to read the whole thing. She did update on the other court cases, and the Cassie Coleman appeal is still waiting for a decision from the Supreme Court. Richie McAllister, the case was refiled in state court. It's active and ongoing. And then the Frankie Wagner Marvin Sanders lawsuit. Marvin Sanders' case was dismissed in Hinds County due to the judge determining his lawsuit could not be combined with our complaint against Frankie Wagner. The complaint was amended in Wagner's case to include Marvin Sanders, and that case is active and ongoing. So none of them have been closed. Right. If his hands were cleaned of blood, wouldn't that also wipe off GSR? Yes, it would. They did swab him before he left. I don't think his hands were cleaned at the scene.
I don't think so either.
There was still blood on them in the autopsy photos.
Now, the gun squad does have their little photo of their micro droplets of blood, which is absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, it's like that. The blood doesn't come out like an aerosol spray, with these little micro droplets. Ridiculous.
He was swabbed for GSR at the scene, and then he was also re-swabbed during the autopsy, or before the autopsy was performed. So, I mean, the GSR was wiped away at the scene when they first swabbed, and then they wiped away more at the second. So, yeah. But I don't think that Christian's physical body was cleaned up at the scene. I think that the scene was cleaned.
Right. Well, we know for a fact the scene was clean.
Right.
The blood spatter.
I hope that helped answer questions. Kira, I'll try to get Cheryl to come on, or Susan, one of us can talk to her about coming on. I don't want to speak on what her feelings were that happened before Christian left the boat. Oh, you mean, okay, I think I'm reading your question wrong. Did she have a feeling or info on what happened before Christian left the boat? She stands by that he was being called, that somebody was calling him and letting him know what was going on with Whitley. She stands by that. She's not changed from that. And she also has no reason to lie.
And he could have been being contacted through an app. Like right. You mentioned, there was that one app that's in his data.
SMS.
Yeah. That would likely not show on the regular report that we have.
It would just show his data. And we do know from the reports that there are times that Christian's phone and Whitley's phone are either FaceTiming or they're using a third-party app to communicate, because they both are at the same time communicating, and the GPS coordinate, it's so hard to explain, but in the string of coordinates, it'll put a location, and they're both the same location, so they're not talking to each other, but it would make sense that they're on the same data plan. I don't know how to explain it. We really need somebody that's like proficient in cell phone data usage. It's not the same as text and phone calls.
Voice, yeah.
Yeah, and voice.
It's a little different.
But there's like it just lines it out differently on the report with the GPS locations, like I said, and they wouldn't be sitting next to each other FaceTiming. They're using a third-party app to communicate. So it just makes sense that they're on the same plan. I don't know. See, I don't want to speak on it, but we do know that they were using some sort of app to communicate. It could have been FaceTime. It could have been a third-party app. Because it's in the data portion of the call, of the phone report. Any other questions? I think Big Brother's calling us. Next week, are you ready for the 911? Next week's all Susan. I'm letting her have it.
Well, no.
Yeah? Yeah. You're the one that, yep. You are the 911 expert. I mean, I'll help. We'll play the 911 call.
Yeah, we'll play the call.
We'll go over what Susan posted in the group already. She has a whole workbook.
It's a textbook that police officers use in regards to 911 calls and their authenticity.
And isn't it written by like the #1 expert on 911 calls in the country?
Yep.
So excited for that one. That one's going to be a good one. So make sure you're subscribed and hit the like button and the little belly bell. Join our group if you're not in, all 33 of you. And as usual, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to us ramble. If we can answer any questions, don't be afraid to ask. We won't bite, I promise. If we can answer it, we will.
And if we can't, we'll try and find out.
Yep. Oh. I do have an answer about the soda in the straw. It's not what I wanted. It's not what I wanted. I will tell you that much, but I'm going to be honest here. It will stay for days. It will stay for days. It's actually like not, once it starts to like evaporate, it kind of like leaves a residue film because it's soda, it's sugar and slime, you know? So it does leave a film in the straw, but that bubble will stay for days.
Have you tested it with one that's done with water? Because that was either Sprite or it was water.
Nope, it was Mountain Dew.
It was Mountain Dew?
Yep, I'll test it with water next. Because,
yeah, the one at the scene, it was a clear liquid. So it was either Sprite or it was water. It could have been water. That could be different than a sugary substance.
Sleuthie, are you, by proxy, are you meaning to hide comments? Thanks for being here, Kira. Yep. Okay, so I'll remind myself to test that. Was there anything else this week that I was supposed to remember to look into? Oh, how many cases Bilbo and Cassie have tried and actually sentenced, and then tried and gave suspended sentences to?
Has Cassie even prosecuted a case?
Cassie who?
I don't know if she has. Hopefully she'll be out next year.
Oh, okay.
Someone goes up against her.
Alrighty. See you next Sunday.
You all done?
A time to be determined. Yes, I am ready to eat some dinner and watch Big Brother. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.